Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good night. However and whenever you may be listening, thank you for stopping into another fantabulous episode of the Take It Easy podcast. It's a happy football Monday. Last weekend was amazing, wasn't it, guys? If it wasn't, I'm sorry to hear that. Monday, it's Christmas week. Most of you probably aren't in school, aren't in work. It's a nice chill week, and you are spending a good part of your day with us, getting smarter about football. This weekend, we had a pretty good weekend on the gambling side. In terms of college football, I think we ended up 6-3 on our picks. Pretty good. That's about all I care to mention about college football, other than the Aztecs whooped up on Central Michigan. Big time hyped about that. We're not going to have enough time to talk about all that today because we have so much football to get into from Saturday, from Sunday. The NFL is off the charts. The entire face of the league, everything we thought we knew about the playoffs, everything we thought was going to happen has changed. But we begin as we do every week with the forgettable game of the week. When we break down the NFL, for those who are new to the podcast, we always start with the least memorable game and usually give commentary on it. The only thing is, this game does not deserve any of my time other than just briefly mentioning that it existed. I want to go as far as to say it never existed. The Lions and the Broncos. That game existed. In fact, I'm changing the schedule now. There are 255 games in the NFL regular season, and there were only 15 games this past week, including the ones still to be played. This game just did not exist, okay? The Lions played the Broncos this weekend. Somebody won. Doesn't matter. Now, we're going to take a trip in the little Wayback Machine here. I know we've had a lot of football exposure over the week, and now we're going to go back to the beginning, but we're also going to get rid of that Houston-Tampa game and go to Buffalo and New England. So, the Patriots did the thing the Patriots always do. They give you a little glimmer of hope. You take the lead going into the fourth quarter. Buffalo's 15 minutes away from winning the AFC East, or you're 15 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl, or you're 15 minutes away from taking them down in Foxborough, whatever it may be. And they always just march on down, get a field goal, you go 3 and out, they get the ball back, usually with about 6 minutes left, and they run it down to about a minute, and they go win the game, tie the game, whatever it was this week. They won the game. Rex Burkhead played out of his mind, which was strange indeed, considering that Rex Burkhead has not really been a focal point or even a big part of that team all season. And yet he was the lead back from the beginning, and there was not a question of who was the offensive weapon that most produced. The Patriots win the East again. They'll get another bye, even though Baltimore wrapped up the number 1 seed. We'll get to more on that later. Brady has an issue with his receivers other than Edelman, and this is true for the whole year, but it's especially true now that Edelman is a wide receiver 2. When you make him a wide receiver 1, the offense becomes one-dimensional and falls apart. I think more so than what Brady has done this year, and he's regressed significantly. So sorry that a 42-year-old quarterback finally regressed. As much as I don't like Brady and he ruins everything for me, I don't blame it entirely. As much as I want to blame it all on him for being worse than Trubisky, he just doesn't trust his weapons offensively. And he has the one guy that he can count on, and it's Julian Edelman. And you see him going there more and more. N'Keal Harry, not a part of the offense. Mohamed Sanu, not a part of the offense. Doesn't have a solid tight end that he can go to anymore. Gronk served as the number 1 before, and now They don't have that weapon anymore. And they tried to replace it with Antonio Brown, and they don't have that anymore. It's why when the Patriots were talking about trading Gronk to the Lions the year after they lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles, they had a deal in place, and Brady said he would retire if they made that trade. He protected Gronk, we all thought, because of what Gronk had done for them and what they had done in the past, but it was actually Brady supporting Gronk because he knew life with Gronk is significantly easier than life without Gronk. We're seeing it right now with the Niners. When they have Kittle, their offense looks drastically different than when Kittle's out. And we're seeing it with the Patriots as well. This is not all on Tom Brady. They're going to get the number 2 seed by virtue of they have the number 1 defense in the league. It's just they'll usually have a number 1 offense and a defense that's good enough to keep them afloat. And this year, the roles have reversed. As for Buffalo, it's going to sting, but you got to keep the focus. They had a chance and it's gone now. Keep the focus. You're going to go to Houston in the wild card weekend. It's a big time step for a franchise that has now been to the playoffs under McDermott. This will be their second trip. Their quarterback is in his second year, making a big time leap, and everything they've done so far going forward is placated on success once they get to the postseason. That's what their main focus should be. It doesn't matter that you lost the division. The Patriots are a better team than you. They have a strong defense that needs to focus on taking down Deshaun Watson because they know where they're going now in the playoffs. They've locked into the 5 seed. LA and San Francisco. This was the Sunday night game. It was a fun game, and it was a game the Niners had no business winning, but the Rams let them hang around long enough, and the Fred Warner pick 6 turned the tides so that the Niners could then capitalize and take that game at the very end. We saw all faces of Jimmy Garoppolo in that game. He played awful at the beginning. Then, following a touchdown by the Rams, he came out, went right down the field, 2.5 minutes, looked like a stud, and then went right into game manager Jimmy G mode, and that's all they needed to get the win, combined with the Fred Warner pick 6. The Rams are eliminated from the playoffs, but that would have probably happened tonight or next week when the Vikings took them down, but so be it for the Rams. One thing I am interested in and intrigued about is for Los Angeles, where from this point forward do they go with building this roster? Because they paid everyone with the hopes of making this big leap for next year. And it was clear now, as I said in August, and it's clear now, the Goff contract, huge mistake. Gurley and Zeke and David Johnson are all proofs this year. Don't pay the quarterback. Don't pay the quarterback. Whatever it is, whatever he's worth, don't pay the running back. I'm sorry. Don't pay the running back don't pay him. So there was a report that they may look to move Gurley. Gurley might be a casualty of a retool this offseason. They brought in Weddle and Clay Matthews as stopgaps on defense. Those are not working out. Offensive line is not deep, and when they finally had injuries this year, things went down for them. Where do they go from here? That's the big question for the Rams. Reconstructing that roster, and this is going to go along with Dak, and we may not get to this today. It is our next topic. Actually, this bleeds right in terms of what they do with the quarterback position. Why do these GMs keep dishing out contracts to these quarterbacks? These tier 3, tier 2 quarterbacks, there's only about 4 or 5 quarterbacks I would pay top money to. And we're going to talk about the Eagles next. I wouldn't have even paid Carson Wentz what Carson Wentz is getting, and he's a phenomenal quarterback. Mahomes, I would pay money to. Second I could. Watson, I would pay big money. Russell Wilson, big money. I can build a roster around these guys. I can't build a roster around Jared Goff and be successful. You can't build a roster around Dak Prescott and be successful. You can't build a roster around Matt Ryan and be successful, as we're seeing with the Falcons this year. There's just not enough money for the pieces that keep these guys stable. All right, now let's go to that Eagles and Cowboys game. It's the game that everyone on every network is talking about, how ridiculous it was to believe in the Dallas Cowboys. I told you on Friday on the podcast on our NFL preview. Go listen to that as well after you're done. If you're just chilling today, just binge all the episodes from last week as well, because most of the stuff still applies, talking about Giannis and all the NFL previews. I said the Cowboys are a better team than the Eagles, but in terms of the Eagles are peaking at the right time, the Cowboys are, I don't want to say they've regressed since early on in the season in essence. Number one offense in everything but points, but they've regressed as a team. Losses to the Bears. That defense made Trubisky look like a star quarterback. Losses all across the board. They've lost, I think, 5 of their last 6 or 4 of their last 5, something like that. And I said on Friday's podcast that the Cowboys are a better team than the Eagles, but on this one day, and that's all they need to win the division, on this one day, the Eagles are going to win against the Cowboys and clear their path to the NFC East crown. Now, they do have to beat the Giants next week, which is not a given, and it feels like a major, major trap game. Because the Giants are here to win now. Their draft position is screwed, and we'll get to that later as well. The Eagles at this point we were talking about the Cowboys before, and the Cowboys squandered an opportunity this year. Garrett's fate is sealed, and now I'll talk about this more and more. Something I said in August. I might take a step back on what I said before, and I've been saying all year they need to trade Dak. Franchise tag Dak. Trade Zeke as soon as possible. I don't even know if he's tradable anymore. This last game may be a prove it going forward, and we'll talk more about that another day. But just basically, in essence, this last game may be a prove it to up Zeke's value before going ahead and trying to get rid of him as soon as possible during the offseason. Give Amari a fair deal, but Amari's dropped a lot of passes. The Cowboys need help, and sometimes it's hard to look and see the grass is greener on the other end of the pasture, but you gotta see what you got in the quarterback. And this is going to be an emotional decision for Jerry Jones, and I don't think he fares well in emotional decisions. Remove everything from it and be an executive instead of an owner for this point. As for the Eagles, they're going to get to the playoffs, and we will have so much time to talk about the playoffs next week once it's all set. That whole week is just going to be dedicated to playoff preview. I got fun games, fun things, whatever, but anyone can win on any given week, and they'll play the loser of the Niners and Seahawks game on Sunday night next week. The Eagles can beat that team because any one of these teams can win in the playoffs, especially in the NFC. In the AFC, it's true, but it's less likely. It's hard to win on the road. In the NFC, you can beat anyone on any given day, and the Eagles playing right at the right time can do that. Miles Sanders is looking like a stud. That defense carried them to a win yesterday. The Cowboys did not play remarkably bad. That defense for the Eagles shut up Dallas on all phases. Other than the drop passes, which I get. Drop passes kill you in the NFL. But on all phases of the game, the Eagles defense shut down the Cowboys. They did a job when they were called upon, and that is why Philadelphia is going to the playoffs, barring an upset against the Giants that might actually happen, as strange as that seems. All right, now we're going to go back a little bit to Saturday again, just because this game was just off the charts. I watched most of it, bouncing. You know, the NFL's got me captured. When I'm an SDSU fan, San Diego State football fan, we're playing in our bowl game, and I find myself tempted to keep watching Houston and Tampa Bay. That tells you the NFL's got a stronghold on the sports landscape, and also that game was just crazy fun. And for a guy who runs a meme page, it's awesome to see Jameis Winston be so bad and then be so good, because now I realized I gave up on Jameis long ago, and I'm coming a little bit around on him, but I'm rooting for him to get a new contract just so he can stay around longer. The Buccaneers need a defense, first and foremost, but secondly, they need a quarterback that's not going to give back so much to the other team of what he's already done. And it's just fling the ball around the yard the way Mahomes does it, but Mahomes has extreme pinpoint accuracy, and Jameis Winston is inaccurate. That may be one of the main differences between them, but I also think Matt Ryan is Jameis Winston. Maybe Mahomes gives him too much credit, but maybe he's Matt Ryan without all the inaccuracies. Matt Ryan is Jameis Winston without the turnovers, is the joke I like to make. Matt Ryan threw 4,000 yards in 12 games this year. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right. I have concluded that I'm a fanarchist. And here's what fanarchists are. They are people who cheer for anarchy in sports. It's why I root for UCF when I give UCF a national championship when they win in 2017. It's why I draw to Fitzmagic last year when he just goes berserk on Buffalo. It's why for Tampa Bay. It's why I lose my mind when PJ Fleck in Minnesota try to crash the college football playoff. It's why I root for UMBC and pick them to go to the Final Four after they beat Virginia. I love anarchy. And that's why I am a huge fan of Ryan freaking Tannehill, baby. Ryan Tannehill is causing anarchy in the NFL, and I predicted this from the very beginning, okay? I said, if you go back to, go find it sometime, it was the October 3rd, I believe, first week of October, it was mid-October, we did the Game Manager series. We did 2 episodes on game managing being an effective strategy, and one of the conclusions I made is that the Titans have all the elements of a really, really good football team. But they just need a quarterback slightly better than Marcus Mariota. And they had one backing up Mariota. They had Ryan Tannehill. And I said then, when they were 1-3, if they put Ryan Tannehill in at quarterback, the Tennessee Titans are going to the playoffs. They were 2-3 at that point. They lost to Denver and put Tannehill in for week 6. And now, with 1 week to go, they hold the 6th spot in the AFC playoff picture and control their own destiny with one game against Houston, in which Houston has no incentive to win. Houston is locked in that 4 seed, barring a collapse by Mahomes against the Broncos. No, against the Chargers. Barring a collapse from Mahomes, the Texans have no incentive to win. The only incentive they have is to keep the Titans out, and that's not strong enough for them to play their best players. This is why I am breaking things down. I'm giving you things nobody said. I hear sports talk radio, and I hear people on ESPN and all this. I'm like, you're not getting to the point. It's all monopolized for clicks and likes and views. And then there's me coming in here telling you exactly, hey, Antonio Brown in 2018, you're 1-2-1. The Steelers, they're way better off without you. They've got Connor, they've got Juju, and they've got Mason Rudolph in the waiting. Turns out it ended up being Duck Hodges. But they're way better off without you. They just need to retool. I have been 100% correct on everything that's happened to the Steelers since then. And they heeded my advice, and I was criticized. I got blocked by Antonio Brown on 3 different accounts. I was criticized hard on that Steelers take. I've been 100% right. The Steelers are right there with the Titans fighting for that 6th wild card. They're ahead of schedule from what I said. I underrated how good that team was going to be without the Killer Bees. Now, the Titans were the team this year I said was going to be 100% there. And I know they lost this week, but they were right in it with the Saints the entire way. You looked at that and it said they could go match up mano-a-mano with the Saints. If that were New Orleans, I would have a totally different story because the Saints are really good. But the Titans were right there neck and neck with the Saints the entire way, and the Saints played a damn near perfect game, and the Titans got beat. I think they had a damn near perfect last 3 quarters. The first quarter was awful for the Saints. They played a damn near perfect 3 quarters, and the Titans were right in it till the end. And now, despite losing, they actually jumped into the playoff spot. And, I'm feeling myself this morning. I'm feeling the Tennessee Titans, but we will have lots of time to talk about the Tennessee Titans. I just like to acknowledge for the fact and put it on record, as I have before, 100% certainty, I was right about the Titans before anyone else and nobody else. Everyone thinks Ryan Tannehill's doing amazing right now. It's not Ryan Tannehill. It's the team around him. Tannehill's putting up great numbers, which is helping them win all these games. It's not Tannehill. It's not Tannehill. It's the Titans. It's Mike Vrabel's amazing job coaching and his strong defense. That's the reason. And Derrick Henry as well, even though he didn't play yesterday. They're going to franchise tag Derrick Henry because I don't think you should pay the quarterback. And they got to let Tannehill walk. Don't pay Tannehill. You can find more Ryan Tannehills, but you can't find more Derrick Henrys. Okay. So that's my spiel there. Pittsburgh kind of choked one away, but that's okay. The issue is now the quarterbacks are coming back down to earth. It's when the quarterbacks start playing like a Duck Hodges instead of the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's when you start coming back down to earth, when Mason Rudolph goes out with a shoulder injury and Sam Darnold runs through them. The Jets are a good team. They just had unfortunate luck this year. A rough beginning to the season. They're 6-9 nice. 2 of their losses were to winless Dolphins and winless Bengals. Things that if you shore up and go in with confidence, that team can win. There should be 8-8 at that point. They're right in the thick of the playoff race. I said at the start of the year, and then I gave up on them, but I should have stuck to my guns knowing Darnold's a good quarterback, and that team shored up a lot of pieces in free agency. I should have known to stick to my guns. I'm not going to take credit for the Jets this time because I totally gave up on them early on in the season, but I gave up too early on the Jets. So I don't think I deserve credit for saying, hey, the Jets are going to be significantly better this year. I said they would be a wild card team at the beginning of the year. I don't think I deserve credit now. The Raiders are pro-anarchy right now. So I don't know if you've been checking all the news on the internet, but the Raiders are still in the playoff race. And they needed 5 things to go their way last week, and every single one went right. And now this week, they need 5 more things to go exactly right for them. And the thing is, there's actually a 1 in 8 chance, 12.5%, a 1 in 8 chance of the Raiders making the playoffs. They need the Steelers and Titans to lose. They need the Colts to beat the Jaguars. I'm not sure why exactly, but they need the Colts to beat the Jaguars, and then they need either the Patriots, Chiefs, or Ravens to win. No, wait. The Ravens would beat the Steelers. No, they would need the Patriots, Chiefs, and one other team, just one of them to win, which is obviously likely. The Patriots are playing the Dolphins. So, from that point going forward, the Raiders need everything that's expected to fall in line for them. And part of what's expected is the Titans to lose, but you have to take into account the fact that the Texans might sit and the Titans are playing for their lives at this point. Everything comes down to one game for the Titans, which they usually lose. The Titans are always in it to the last week, and they always find a way to lose. And for the Steelers, they need to okay, the Raiders need the Steelers to lose to the Ravens. Seems likely, but the Ravens are going to bench all their Pro Bowlers because they've already locked up the number 1 seed. Now, I still think RG3 in that system is discount Lamar Jackson. We've seen RG3 do good things at quarterback, so I think there's a legitimate chance an RG3-led RG3-led Ravens could beat the Steelers. Sorry, that was just force of habit. They both start with R, and I started and I just went Redskins, just because it's a force of habit. That was actually a really cool moment. So yeah, the Steelers need. Okay, wow. We already talked about them. Dang, we've been going for 25 minutes and been damn near perfect at this point, and now we're gonna fade out there. If you see the profile picture for today, it's got Kyler and Kingsbury as we transition here. And I didn't have the cojones to pick it straight up, but I did say the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I said on Friday, it's that game every year. For some reason, the Cardinals always go into Seattle and win. It makes no sense, but it happens every year, every December. The Cardinals go into Seattle and win, and then last year they were winning the entire game until Seattle kicked a last-second field goal to beat the Cardinals to lock up the number 1 pick. They were going to lose out on Kyler Murray because they go into Seattle every year and win. It's absolutely ridiculous how it happens every year. One, they always play in December, which is weird, but regardless,